Welcome to More Action, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals. I'm your host, Shelly Brien, and together we have candid conversations with industry leaders to uncover valuable wisdom and lessons learned. My hope is you use these lessons to intentionally take more action in business and life. I hope you share and enjoy. Backed by popular demand is, of course, the one and only Chris Brien. So he has been on 2 other episodes, and I should know these answers right now, but we'll link the episodes in the notes. I know one was 49. I'm trying to remember the other one off my top of my head, but these episodes did very well, were highly downloaded, and I have decided to bring Chris on the show once a month. You know, running a business as a husband and wife is interesting, let's just say. It's interesting, it's fun, it's exciting, it's hard, it's challenging, it's all of the above. But sharing it more with everyone, showing, you know, some of the ways that we've learned and grown, I think are valuable to everybody else. And that's what it's all about with this show. If that we can share our experiences to help you, that's what it's all about. And today we are actually talking about service-based businesses. And, you know, here in commercial construction, we offer a service-based business. We are a service-based business on, you know, very large scale, changing people's lives through construction. But the specific topic is thinking beyond the bottom line.
First, you already used your once a month, by the way. I don't want to throw that out there. So this is technically twice per month. Because we just did a media day. So that counts.
Yes, I know. You could tell, like, Chris loves this. It's so funny. He fights me on coming on the show, but I got to tell you, he actually does love it because he likes he likes to help someone else. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Are you constantly helping your subcontractors out on the job, right? Become better. Because we all lift each other up, right? And so that's what this show is about. So looking beyond the bottom line. Okay. And what does that mean to you when you say look beyond the bottom line, leading a construction company?
I guess what that specifically would mean to me, like in my business, would be don't get so caught up in the like I would call them maybe nickels, you know, maybe pennies, nickels, and dimes, like on things, and look farther ahead. Look, when I say farther, I'm like looking like 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road. Like right now, that $100 may be super important. I mean, especially as you're starting a business and going. But one of the things I guess we have in our industry is we don't have what I consider a high percentage of dollars of revenue that go to specifically the marketing. Meaning like we don't advertise on pay-per-click, we don't advertise on YouTube, that's not necessarily where we're doing our marketing. So what I consider, like when I say look past or beyond the bottom line, is when you're working with someone, is don't nickel and dime them for every tiny little change or every, you know, nut and bolt that goes into something. It's more look past that as this is my marketing budget. This is how I'm building a relationship with someone to help them out, and no one likes to be nickel and dimed, and no one likes fees, and no one likes any of that stuff. So that's kind of what it means to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, we can all look at various experiences, relationships, that we've had in the past. You know, I think about me in the horse industry, participating in the horse industry, being nickel and dimed for something that's like a $10 charge when we're already paying excessive amounts.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say excessive. We're already paying for it, but it's like these little things and like this little thing and little thing, it just starts to irritate you. And if you're tuning in right now, you probably feel that like you've been nickel and dime before and you're like, is this worth it?
Yeah.
And when you're the customer, you might get really annoyed, right? Like I just shared, you get really annoyed. But when you're the business owner and you're in it, sometimes you don't realize you're doing that or having that effect on someone else. And that's what I think is important to kind of talk about and bring about, because starting a business is hard, and the pennies do add up.
Yeah.
I remember in the restaurant, when we had the restaurant, those pennies added up, and waste, and all these little things. But when I could do something over and above, or not charge someone,
Mhm.
whether it was a client and or even helping out an employee, it created such loyalty back to us.
Yeah, and if you're in the industry, like, like, I mean, for example, like that specific industry, you kind of get the feeling, bar industry, restaurant industry, when people are taking advantage of you, they're just showing up for the free drinks, or they're showing up for the free desserts or whatever it is. And then you start to know, okay, this person's not like taking care of me at the same time. I'm helping them out. They're not taking care of me. It's not, it's going both ways. I would like to say that something that comes right to mind on me is also looking past the bottom line is restrain yourself as long as you can before you follow up with a client who may be not necessarily behind, but maybe on a slow pay, because there may be things that are going outside of their control. For example, one of the clients that we work with, I had a call about a different project, and she was complaining about a contractor that was hounding her down for a pay app, and to the point she didn't want to take his calls anymore. And there's nothing really she can do to process any faster. I don't know the details behind it. It's not like I had never had a problem getting paid by that customer. And she knew eventually he was going to get paid, but it got so bad to the point that there were 3 jobs in the one. They pulled 2 jobs from him and gave them to me because they were tired of him constantly calling them about pay application. And I get it. Trust me. Like, we've been there when it was like, all right, well, I guess we're broke for this month. And it is. And I've always restrained myself from being the person making myself look desperate. Like, that's what you don't want to put yourself in. You don't want to put you in a position, because you lose respect and you lose credibility with your client if you're putting yourself in a position where you're making yourself look you look weak, essentially, is the way I look at it, when you're going to someone and you're almost begging them for money to get paid, and then they don't want to work with you in the future. They're like, hey man, this guy's not stable. Like, we got to rethink about this. I don't want to hear from him. I see his phone call and I don't want to answer it. So that's kind of always run things. And I prefer to work with people that are the same way, because obviously with us, we try and money comes in, money goes out. We don't hold on anything. Everyone gets paid. Sometimes they get paid super early before they even start the job. But they're always paid usually within typically 30 days. So, but that's one of the things, like, that's when you're looking past that. You got to look past, like, okay, I don't want to put my customer, who I'm trying to build a relationship with, do future jobs with. I don't want to make them feel like they made a bad choice in hiring me because I can't control how we're spending things, or 2, like, that they're getting pressured enough from other people. I don't want to add on top of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think you kind of brought out a whole bunch of things. I think that the first thing I just want to dive back on real quick to make sure that we hit home on, and then we'll talk about kind of the overall like view or optics of how that looks. But when you have a service-based business and you start nickel and diming your customers, right? They have multiple choices of people to work with. They do not only have to work with you. There is no monopoly here. And so if you start nickel and dime, like, you've given them, I mean, I could think of a subcontractor that we've given multiple jobs to, that then like would submit something back to us that they missed on the plans to price out. And it was like, I don't know, a $500 charge or something. And while $500 is $500, but at the big grand scheme of it, it looked like you felt like you're like, wait a minute, you missed that. Now you're coming back to me asking for more money. And you're not going to go back to the client and ask for more money because this guy or gal missed their mark. Right. Right. And so you're going to eat it because you see the bigger picture. But what we want to try and help those that are in service-based businesses to understand is that $500, what you were saying, go towards your marketing budget. Be like, you screw up, or you know what? Even if you missed something that you forgot to bid. And we're not talking just construction here. So like, we're talking construction, but like you bid something, you win a project, and then you're like, oh, I forgot to pay for or put this on the bill. You know what? Like you got to realize, okay, that is something that is going to cost me money. But you know what? I have X amount percent or X amount of dollars towards my marketing budget every month. I'm going to now slip that into this because I want to make sure I deliver and over deliver for this client.
Mhm.
So it's having that bigger picture as being like, was the $500 really worth it
Yeah.
for kind of the frustration that it caused you?
Right.
And so that's like the bigger thing is like step back and be like, how is this going to be received? Is this worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of the things like you're working with someone, or in our case, we're working with a subcontractor. They're doing a $150,000 subcontract for us, and they're, asking us about future work, and something was messed up on the plan because the architect messed it up and didn't put it on this page, and it doesn't end up on that page. And they come back and say, oh, we're missing one light. So we're gonna have to put another light in that wasn't on the plan. So we're gonna have to charge you $250. Like when I get that, I'm like, okay, like I'm not gonna ask you to bid a job anymore, because like that's something that I just, personally for me, I would never go back to my customer. Now I could have went back to our customer and said, hey, it's not on the plan,
Whatever,
I'm gonna give you a $250 change order. You know what they would have said? We're not gonna ask you to bid another job, because that's like really $250. Like, now I get it. That's the area we play. Those numbers are different than someone else's service-based business numbers are. So that's not like I can't say that's apples to apples and whatever someone else is doing. But for us, it's very easy to say, yeah, I paid the $250 to the subcontractor, but I didn't charge my client. And I took that $250. I said, you know what? I'll mention it probably during the walk and say, oh yeah, we had to add an extra light here because it wasn't on the plan. The plans are screwed up. We got to take care of it. Don't worry about it. And I'm not going to send you anything. Like that to them is like huge. Huge. That's like, hey, these guys know what they're doing. They get it taken care of. And then we don't see a bunch of nickel and diming coming back. So we're definitely going to invite them to bid on the next one. So,
and I think that's important to like it added to the conversation. You hear this buzzword out there of value. I remember when I always heard this, especially in like the digital marketing space, add value, add value. I'm like, what is value? It was like so annoying to me. But like that was a perfect example of being able to add value in the sense that you looked at it bigger, you understood what the customer's goals were and your goals. And the thing is that even though we love working with our subs and we love like bringing them up with them, it's having these conversations like we're having right now to help kind of elevate the game, go bigger, right? Spend extra time on your bidding. Make sure when you're putting out a contract for whatever service you're offering that you are reviewing all the bits and pieces of it. You screw up, you can say, look, I screwed up, but I'm going to eat it and move on. That's adding value. That's showing that you care about the relationship going forward. Now, switching gears to the second thing that you talked about was like the optics of asking for payment. And I think a lot of it comes down to setting expectations, right? Contract, you can have like a net 30 days, 60 days, whatever it is. But you brought up a good point, and I think it's this like human factor that sometimes gets overlooked because it's money at the end of the day. But we all have so many different things going on in our life. And like the example you gave of this one other, a different general like hounding this, typically it's like an intermediary from the client to get paid. And the guy or gal that's like handling that paperwork can only do so much.
Right.
And you know what? There might be something going on. And I always think about it. And sometimes this helps me even driving on the road. I don't know about y'all, but a little bit of road rage sometimes. We drive a lot and there's lots of construction right now. But I always think like when someone's kind of being a jerk, I'm like, I wonder if their dog just died. Like, I don't know. I know that might be morbid, but I'm like, what if their dog just died? I would be driving frantic. Or what if their dog was sick in the car and or their child, and they had to get somewhere fast? I'm like, I don't know what's going on in their life. I'm going to just let them go. It's just like a perspective change from being like, jerk, I need to get paid. You're supposed to pay me. It's 31 days. And like, you're a jerk. It's like, well, wait a minute. Maybe they didn't get paid yet to be able to pay you.
Yeah.
And so when you start going off, it's like, what do the optics look like when you are just calling and hounding for money. Now, here's the flip of it though, is we're running a business.
Yeah, no, it's a sensitive area.
It is.
But that's why it's also important to make sure that you don't take on more than you can
Mhm.
handle, bite off more than you can chew, and that you can't cover what you need to cover just in case they don't pay you. When we had the case where the guy we were doing a job for, his, throughout the project, his wife died. And he was the one who was responsible for pay applications and paying things and double checking that work was done. And it took us 5 months to get paid final.
Mhm.
And that was a lot of money outstanding on that. And it was a sensitive area because we wanted to follow up and know what's going on. Their office didn't really know what was going on because they weren't involved in it. He was only involved and he was out. I'm not going to actually call the guy and hound him down. So it was like one of those scenarios that, thankfully we have the reserves that we're able to continue our operations and our business while we're working through that scenario. And it ended up working out fine and we got paid and everything was good. But that's why I say it's like a sensitive area. Now you may have like some of the companies I work with are larger companies and they have their own accounts receivable department, and it's very systematic. It's very, here's your 30-day invoice, 60-day invoice, 120 invoice. It's just that their job is to collect money.
Mhm.
So it's a little different, but when you're working and you're trying to build, those are companies you don't really build relationships with. And usually those are the ones that are like, yeah, obviously they're larger. They're like usually fire contractors because they've been bought up and they're bigger companies. And
Mhm.
you have a relationship with the estimating guy or the service guy, but like not really the business owner.
Yeah.
Like specifically the client, like your client or the people that are working for you that are working are also small businesses as well. That's what we're talking about, building the relationship and like marketing dollars and where you can move things around.
Well, and like how we talked about looking past the bottom line. I think that's like the overall just, and I think you're hearing some commonalities here as far as like the optics. Where could you look at the bottom line or the nickel and dime? How could you look at it differently and apply it differently? What is the overall relationship that you need to have? And I think at the end of the day, when you're running your own business, you also get to make choices on who you want to work with and who you don't.
Yeah.
And that's something too that I want to just talk about really quick is service based, because we are a service company, but we also work with other service based companies altogether, our subcontractors. And just like we just talked about the optics of looking excuse me, of overcalling or demanding payment or what have you. But like as a service base, when does the interview start in your mind when we're looking to bring on somebody to work with?
Whatever the first contact. I mean, it could be the very first phone call.
Yeah.
Very, very first contact with someone is where it starts. Like if you could tell, like you probably had conversations with people like, I don't know if I'm gonna get along with this person. It's just something's not right. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's when it starts.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really it. Like how follow up. Like I know these aren't seem like simple things and kind of like duh, but again, as business owners or building businesses, you can sometimes like get stuck in the weeds and some of the details that you might be looking at for a potential employee or a subcontractor to work with in whatever, right? A subcontractor isn't only construction. I just can't reiterate enough is that this applies to everyone. That service is, do you follow up on time?
Mm-hmm.
How are you talking about problems that come up? This is business. There are problems every single day. Construction, it's like times 5. Are you just coming in and throwing your hands up and you can't handle this, or this can't be done? Or are you bringing solutions? Like,
I think like it actually comes down to like it's very, very simple. It's not complicated. Just answer the phone with a smile on your face. Be honest. Like just be candid with people. They want straight up answers.
Mhm.
Show up on time and do your job really well.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like once you've done that, like it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
Don't like we're kind of like this, don't annoy people. Don't if you do unto others as you want done to you, or whatever the saying is. Treat others how you want to be treated. If you don't like being nickel and dimed, which I don't think probably 99% of people do, then don't nickel and dime someone.
Mhm.
Like that's really what it comes down to. Do what you want someone else to do, and like it will come back to you. And you don't have to expect it. You don't do it expecting. You do it because that's what you want it. It's how
Mhm.
you want to be treated.
Mhm.
But it has no choice but to come back to you 10, 15, 20, 100 fold from there.
It's so true. I think sometimes, we're inundated with all kinds of things, whether it's mentorship or conversations or just what we see out there in the digital world, social media, everything. It's like, do this, do this, do this, do this. Here's the special checklist to make it happen, and all these different things. When I just love how you just said, it's really not that hard. It's not hard. It's very simple. And getting back to the basics, I mean, think about it. Get back to the basics on everything. It makes life a lot easier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's simple, actually. It's not complicated. Everyone out there on social media and all these things are trying to complicate it and make you think it's harder than it is. You got to do this and do that and do this and that. It's not. Just treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And if you are not good at that, like you have expectations, you want to be treated a certain way, but you also know that you're not good at like answering the phone or following up or do whatever, well, then focus on working on that. When the phone rings, make yourself answer it. Do the hard thing for you, and eventually get easier and easier, and it'll become second nature. That's it.
Words of wisdom right there, I tell you. No, I mean, what do they always say, right? Like, eat the frog, do the hardest thing first. Like, all of these little things, it's truly just bring it back to the basics, answer the phone, treat others how you want to be treated. And when it comes to service-based businesses, I think if you just keep that in your mind of thinking beyond going beyond the bottom line. Think beyond the bottom line in everything that you do, right? In the communication that you have. What is the bottom line expectation? Go beyond that, right? When it comes to payments, and he's smiling right now. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, you can see he's smiling right now. I don't know why.
Because I still think it comes like all like what you're saying makes it sound a little too complicated.
Oh, really?
It's just simple. To treat people how you want to be treated.
I was just simply giving some examples.
Okay.
Because some people might not have high expectations, right? I think that happens a lot. And I think that's what weeds certain service-based businesses out, is that they don't have high expectations for themselves. So if they don't have them for themselves, why would they have it for anybody else?
Well, then they need to be weeded out.
Exactly. And so this episode and what we want to share is how to not let yourself get weeded out.
Well, that's I mean, if you go into business or service-based business and you go in expecting like, this is how I want people to treat me because I'm amazing and I'm the best and I'm such a good electrician or florist or whatever it is, but then you're not going to give the same respect to your clients. Well, your clients are going to go away. Like your customers are going to disappear. You're not going to have word of mouth, and eventually you'll be out of business. So like it all comes back down to treat people how you want to be treated.
It's very, very true. It's very, very true.
Right.
And is there anything else that you think, like, beyond the bottom line that kind of hits home for you for service?
No, just one more example. I've worked with a company where I helped them kind of get their start. They did $500,000 in work for me in 1 year, and then I started getting nickel and dime because someone else came into the job, and it kind of like relationship building went out the window. I had a couple big projects out that they had bid on, and I decided to pull those from them. One company in particular that I've worked with over the last couple of years treats me exactly how I feel like and how I treat them. It's what's that called?
Mutually beneficial relationship.
And what's the other term for it? Symbiotic almost relationship.
Oh, now you're going scientific.
Yeah, and it's like, but I've given them over in the last couple of years probably $4 million in business.
Yeah, because they treated you.
Yes, because we work really well together, and he's very similar to me in the fact that it's not like everything we just covered in this podcast. Like we treat each other exactly how we expect to be treated. And it benefits both of you. It benefits both of us. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. Yeah. Right. And then it's very hard to crack through that too. If you're trying to like be someone who wants to work with us or whatever, like it makes it very difficult to crack into that. You know what I mean? The same thing we run into with customers. Like it's hard for us to crack in with certain owners or developers or whatever, because they've built a relationship with like that with somebody. And it comes down, that's what it comes back to is like, then, so now your first interview is the phone call, and then you're working together. And then over time, you realize you work well together. You treat each other the way you want to be treated. You respect each other. The respect is high. And then it develops into a relationship, a very strong relationship. And then not many people or other businesses can crack through that. So that's,
So what advice would you give to somebody that is in a service-based industry and trying to like earn the business of someone that has established relationships? Here's one thing that's really interesting, just thinking back to my old corporate days in pharmaceuticals, right? What a wild industry, but a lot of the doctors were really good friends with certain reps. I mean, this is literally 20 years ago now. We're really good friends with some of the reps. And then a new rep would come in with a comparable drug in, efficacy, cost, compliance, like all of the things. And like it was very hard to crack those relationships. Like I have a few pieces of advice, but I'm curious. I had to do the same thing, but like, what advice would you give somebody?
It's so different though, because you have no control over what your company does. Like, that's the thing. Like when you're just
I have control over essentially like when I was in that position. And if we had a business development person too, like they have control over their actions and what they can do.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to what we do, and I would just say the only thing you can do is if you can earn a opportunity to work with that customer, you have to make their life so easy that it blows their mind. You have to be able to do something so different from what the service that they've been getting and it has to go, nothing ever goes perfectly, but that first one has to go so perfect that they don't have a choice but to invite you or ask you to do future things. So you have to like treat that opportunity is like that can be the future of your business for the next 3, 4, 5, or 10 years. If you want to, if you're trying to grow and get to a certain point, and you have to continue to look at that customer the same way and give them the same service, because they're not going to expect anything less.
Nope. The bar is set high.
The bar is set high. So you have to build your team. And if you build your company to take those steps to be able to continually supply that service on everything going forward. And then eventually you just build such a great reputation for yourself that then the business starts coming to you.
And you have systems.
Because when someone slips, as someone always does, you're going to be there to fill that hole. And you've already built your company to be such an amazing service-based, like 800-pound gorilla that you can walk into something like that and just not even have to stress about it and know your team is going to take care of it and crush it.
Okay. That's really good advice. And I think mine, honestly, it was just do what you say you're going to do. Whatever you said you were going to do, if you said you were going to follow up, provide them with something, get them a quote, follow up on the quote, provide them a case study to review, whatever it is, whatever you say you're going to do, deliver. That I think is the biggest part. It's like you can talk it, but are you going to actually do the work?
Yeah.
And I think kind of tying those two things together, no matter what industry you were in, I know that's what separated me back then. I know that's what's separating us now, is that it's not empty promises. It's kind of this quiet consistency of excellence that I just see. It's like not a surprise that we're delivering on time within budget. It is designed that way and making it easy for the clients ultimately.
Yeah, that's what the name of the game is right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any last words?
Nope.
This one was fun. It got heated. Did you guys see? He was like all quiet up front. If you saw this on YouTube, come over, make sure you hit subscribe and follow us. We're on LinkedIn and Instagram. Chris's favorite Instagram. Just kidding. He doesn't like any social media.
You won't find me there.
But you will find him there, actually. You will find him there. No, we share this because we want to help you. And if it helps you, the best thing that you can do to pay it forward is share it with somebody else. If this hit home with you, great. I'm sure you know some other business owner that it could also help as well, or someone that is thinking about going into business together with their spouse. Fun conversations. Don't worry, I'm going to tag those episodes in the notes so you can listen to those. But thank you again. And don't forget to keep taking more action.